To explain what's going on right now, I have to go back to like 1987, because in 1987 we jumped to a different timeline, and a lot of people weren't even aware that we were in a different timeline, and we went from 3 to 4D. And at that, there's a difference in how the timelines affects us. So there were some people like myself that knew that we had jumped a timeline, and there were other people that also knew that we had jumped a timeline. But the normal person did not know that we had jumped a timeline. And so it was all of like a consciousness shift. And that was because of the harmonic conversion, where so many people got together and they changed the consciousness of the world. And so it pushed us into the 4-density timeline. And so the 4th density rules, it's a psychic realm, it rules ETs, it rules the dark controllers. And so that was what we have been, and rules a war that had been going on between the light and dark for all these years. And so we became very, very aware of it. And so then I watched to see how the shift in the timeline would work. You know, and it wasn't immediate, but as time went on, first of all, the first main thing that happened is Art Bell came on the air, and he just broke the whole paradigm apart. You know, I mean, he was talking on all these things that nobody talked about. You know, the UFOs and everything that's going on in the world, the controllers and all that kind of stuff. And before that, I mean, the psychic realm was just a no-no. You know, you don't talk about this to regular people. You just don't do that. And then there was a change that happened when we moved into 4D. And so it's been an interesting to watch it, you know, so that's been going on for a long time. And it took us a long time to go through that density. And so now we're on the verge of the Earth going into 5 density. And I think that the timeline has already started to shift, because I have been so out of it since the full moon in March. It's like the magnetic field is going crazy or something, and my head I've been dizzy, I've been nauseated. I mean, I'm not sick or anything, it's just from the energy. I think it's been from the magnetic field moving. And so we're on the kind of like the edge of our magnetic shift that we've been going through. And we've been going through the magnetic shift since 1994. That's when the magnetic field started moving fast, and now it's really moving fast. And so right now, the acceleration on that has gotten really, really, really fast. And so we're in the ending of the magnetic pole shift that we were, supposed to go through, or have been going through. And so this might be, it's between Chrisana says between April 11th and the 26th that the magnetic field will really get going fast. And that's why we've been in so many earth changes, and the earth changes will get more, because the earth changes, you know, we're all connected to the magnetic field, and the earth changes, the earth itself is also connected to the magnetic field. And so it's in April, you know, like the equinox is tomorrow, and so it's kind of like the doorway starts changing or opening, you know, I think actually from the full moon of March. And then in April, it really comes to a climax. And like what I wrote in my article, my last article, is that, now Nemesis is a dwarf planet, and some call it our second sun. So everyone's been looking for the second sun. Well, Nemesis came in, it was first appeared on our screen in 2003, and then it was announced in 2005. And so, now, Nemesis is a dwarf planet, and some call it our second sun. The second sun is now called Eris, E-R-I-S. This dwarf planet is larger and closer to Earth than Pluto. Our astronomers first spotted this dwarf planet in 2003, although they did not announce it until January of 2005. They first named it Zena, but later changed the name to Eris, which means chaos. This means the name Eris was accepted on September 13, 2006. Eris has one moon. After Eris was discovered, they demoted Pluto to a dwarf planet in 2006. Actually, Pluto and Eris are considered twin planets. Pluto rules transformation, and Eris rules chaos. Eris was discovered in the sign of Aries and is still there. It moves very slowly. It is now up to 21 degrees Aries and has been conjunct Uranus. The discovery of Eris was announced in January 2005, right after the major tsunami in Southeast Asia on December 26, 2004. And you can all look back and see all the major earth changes that has happened since then. And so that's because Eris rules chaos and rules earth changes. And so there have been major weather changes since then with the help of HARP and CERN. The major changes started with the discovery of Eris. Now that Eris is conjunct Uranus, the planet of change, we are in major change on all levels. And so this is, that's why we're in so much chaos. There appears to be a lot of chaos. And also this ties in with the book of Revelation. And we'll give you my understanding of the book of Revelations. I know other people have different understandings, and I know the religious people have totally different understandings than I do. But Spirit has been telling me, helping me with interpretation of it for years now. And so starting in, the main one, when we went through the 17th and 18th chapter of Revelation, that was all about the war in Iraq and the destruction of New York. Well, thank goodness, because when I knew about the destruction on New York, a long time ago, I thought, oh my God, And so actually, as far as I'm concerned, it was, for me, a good thing that it was just the towers, because it could have been the whole city, But there was also, because we changed frequencies in 1987, everything changed. And then instead of going through the major changes like Earth was going to go through, we've been going through a lot of changes, but they've been on a lower dimension, or not such a high dimension. And so that's what happened with that. And so and then of course that went on for several years, because one chapter of Revelations can take a long time to go through. And then we went into the 19th chapter of Revelation, and that talks about on the bottom of the chapter, it talks about the war, the Third World War that would happen. And it was also prophesied someplace else that I happened to be sent this pamphlet in 1973 about what would be the Third World War. And so that's when it started, and they said it would start in North Africa. And so that's when Tunisia, first started it. And then it went through all the Middle Eastern countries. And it said it would do that. That it would encompass the whole Middle East area and all those countries. And so that is still going on. And then, of course, the whole world got involved in it in Syria. And so then war can be on different levels, too. So we've been going through a war on different levels, like the United States is divided. It's Republicans against the Democrats, It's like a war. Two different things. And so we're supposed to be moving into unity consciousness, and we haven't quite got there yet, because that's the energy of the 5D. And so the 5D is like, it's love and unity and people working together. And I thought it was interesting that the Seattle Times in January, in their little magazine that comes with their paper, they said that this is a year of kindness. And so I thought, well, if we can just do the kindness thing, that everything would be fine. And so, but once we jump into 5D, the controllers that have been on the 4D will not be able, they will self-destruct, because they will not be able to handle the energy of 5D, because it all has to do with frequency. Your frequency match, you attract what your frequency is. And so the dark ones will attract to them destruction, because they can't get out of, well, maybe they can, Hopefully a lot of them will up their frequency so they can go into 5D. And I'm not saying that this is a one-day thing, but we do have some planetary energy coming up here in April. And this is, okay, so on our planet, there is a spot on our planet on 19 degrees Aries, and this is, astronomers have known about it astrologers have known about it for a long time, that degree is exalted. It's the most powerful degree on our whole planet. And Richard Hoagland, who's done a lot of scientific work, I don't know if you guys know who he is, but anyways, he does it by tetrahedron geometry, and he has proven that on every one of these planets, there's a point of degree on 19.5 degrees. And so all of these degrees go together from Earth to all of the planets in our solar system, and it all connects with the galactic center. And so what happens in April here, this is amazing. And this is what first got me started when I looked at a chart for the full moon in April. I thought, oh my goodness. And so it actually starts on April 8th. And on April 8th, the sun is on 19 degrees Aries, Pluto is on 19 degrees Capricorn, and Jupiter is on 18 degrees Libra. And then there's an asteroid of great power on 23 degrees Cancer. So there's a fixed cross, a cardinal cross in our heavens on April 8th, and it activates that degree. And I thought, oh my goodness, that's really, really powerful. And that's why I wrote in my last article, and this was part of the, because I was into the dream spell calendar, or still am, because it's still in effect. And so what I said was on April 8th, right before the full moon of April 10th, the sun will be on 19 degrees Aries, conjunct Eris, in opposition to Jupiter on 18 Libra, and square Pluto on 19 Capricorn. And the asteroid of great power beyond 23 Cancer. This will make a very powerful cross in the heavens. From April 8th to the full moon on the 10th, these transits could cause a major event to happen that might open the doorway to a higher frequency reality. This could also be the opening of the sixth seal and Revelations. And the sixth seal talks about how the sun becomes dark, and then all the controllers and that go hide in their underground bases, And so I don't think that's going to happen on this day, but that's what the sixth seal talks about. And the seventh seal is the rule of God on Earth. And so, so this degree of 19.5 Aries connects with all the other planets in our solar system and opens a doorway to the galactic center on 27-28 degrees Sag, which is where Saturn is now located. And so we've got Saturn on that degree, along with this fixed cross, cardinal cross. We've got Saturn conjunct the galactic center. That's major. And Saturn is the planet, the beings from Saturn. They are the ones who set up the matrix on Earth. And they wanted to control us, and so they had. It's kind of like in the Wizard of Oz, where you have at the ending, where there's just like a man behind the curtain, and so this kind of like all the illusion. But anyways, they did set up the matrix on the planet Saturn, and in Vedic astrology, Saturn is the planet that controls Jupiter, Saturn, Venus, because they only use the lower, the close-in planets in their astrology. And so Saturn has been control of that. And Saturn is a karmic planner. Saturn is considered like the devil, Satan type of thing. But it's just the lessons that we choose to learn. And so with Saturn lined up with the galactic center and this cardinal cross in the heavens, something is bound to happen. And it could be the beginning of the doorway to fifth density. Okay, and so, it could be, and it could also cause the splitting of the timelines. If this happens, it will be the beginning of our freedom here on planet Earth. We'll be out of the matrix and able to enter a new reality that could possibly be the beginning of the golden age. We will feel the first energy wave on the spring equinox, because a wave of energy always comes in at the solstice and equinox. Last year on the spring equinox, the final war on the astral happened. And I know that without a shadow of a doubt. And the dark ones were thrown down to earth for the final battle here. And that's why it went on like the light workers were winning, when the energy was getting really nice, and then all of a sudden the election came along and boom, everyone's fighting each other. Okay, so that's why, because they were thrown out of the level that they had been fighting in, and we're here on physical planet Earth now. And I don't know how long they'll stay, but hopefully this energy coming up will shift the energy, so they won't be a bother before too long. And so I said, we're definitely in this final battle right now between the light and dark. Are we about to have divine intervention, where the powers that be say enough is enough? Only time will tell. And so, like with the election, okay, so the United States, the sun of the United States chart is on 13 degrees Cancer. And Pluto, at the election, Pluto was exactly on 13 degrees Capricorn. And the polarity of the two signs always work together. And so Pluto Pluto rules birth, death, and transformation. And so with Pluto being on top, exactly on top of this chart of Washington, D.C., at the time of the election, it was obvious that Trump was meant to come in there, and to come in and be the transformer. And so there's been a lot of dissension, whether you like Trump or don't like Trump. It's all just like he was meant to be there, and it's playing out exactly like it was meant to be, because we've gone through the 19th chapter, and now we're in the 20th chapter. The 20th chapter of Revelation is all about all of the controllers and all of the dark ones being exposed, being brought out into the public, into people's awareness. And that's exactly what's happening right now. And so all of the corruption that's going on behind the scenes has been coming out for the last couple of years, and now it's at a climax. In fact, Monday, they're going to have a meeting in Washington, D.C. with all the CIA and all those people, and they're going to discuss the connection between Trump and Putin. And so I'm kind of anxious to see how that turns out, because Putin has been a person, I've researched him for a long time, and his desire, since he went in there actually, and his desire has actually been to control the world. And so now that he wanted to control the world through going through the United States. And so to infiltrate our government, and he would infiltrate from the inside out. And I had read several years ago in a magazine I had that at that time the Russians were sending a lot of their Jesuit priests over here to infiltrate into our government. And that was about 15 years ago, And so apparently they all became into their place, And so, anyways, all this is coming out into the open. And it has to, because for us to be into 5 density, all that has to be exposed. And then the 20th chapter is all about that. And so however long the 20th chapter takes for us to go through is how long it will happen. But after that is the 21st chapter. And that's the beginning of the new heaven and the new earth. And if you want to read something inspiring, just read those 2 chapters, or particularly the 22nd chapter, because it talks about how wonderful the New Jerusalem will be. And a lot of people don't realize it, but we're in, it's not like a 26,000 year cycle or a 126,000 year cycle. It's a 4 billion year. Anyway, since our solar system was created, that's how long a cycle we're finishing up. And so this is it. This is the end. And the dark will not be allowed to control anymore in our solar system or any part of it. It's all going to be over. And it's not only the Earth that has been going through the changes. It's been our whole solar system that has been going through the changes. And so when you really think about that, that's pretty awesome, that's a long, long period of time. And so now we have all the players in their correct roles, and we'll see how it all works out. And so here, this is how astrology works. Like on Donald Trump's chart, he's a Gemini, and his sun is on 22 degrees Gemini, and his node, which is your destiny, is on 20 degrees Gemini. Well, if you look at the United States birth chart, the planet Mars is on 20 degrees Gemini. So that means he came in as a war president. And the war, like I said, doesn't have to be a physical war, although Korea seems to be stirring itself up right now, which I don't like. But it can be like an internet war. It can be a war between people, because we're in the time of relationships are really difficult right now. This is because of Jupiter in Libra, and Libra rules relationships. And so in September of this year, Jupiter will still be there, and then it will move into Scorpio. And so during this time period, and that's relationships on all levels. It can be like relations between like the United States and Mexico, the United States and China, United States and Germany, or, all the players that are out there. And it can also be on personal relationships too. And so that's how it works, like his node is exactly conjunct Mars. And then the hacking war, that's been going on for a long time. That's like the ending of the 4D thing, like when the internet came in, and the internet is the beginning of unity consciousness, because we can, in an instant, we can talk to anyone, anywhere in the world, as long as they have computer connection. And so that's the beginning of the unity consciousness. And so we live in very, very interesting times. And the United States chart, let's see, it's okay. So it has like a cardinal cross in the heavens too, and so this cardinal cross will really affect the United States because of it having the cardinal cross. And Pluto is on 19 degrees right now, so it's past being right exactly on top of it. But Pluto and Mercury are now starting to move into an opposition. And so we'll feel the Mercury, which is communication, travel, all those type of things. And so it's really, really interesting, I think. Especially I got kind of hooked on the Rachel Maddow show, and she comes on every night at 6 o'clock and at 9 o'clock, and she's been bringing out all of the conspiracy things that have been going on, and she's had like the proof to prove that they happen, and all the connection between Russia and all that kind of stuff. And so it's been totally fascinating. And so I can hardly wait to see what she says tomorrow night on the equinox, to see how this meeting came out in Russia, and so it had to be, everything had to be stirred up for people to wake up and look at how people all over the world have waken up, and particularly the women. There've been all the women marches, and so women are really, really behind the scenes, starting to show their power and to stand up, and say, because women have been oppressed for such a long period of time. It hasn't been, well, they still are in the Middle East countries, They've been really oppressed, and so it's time to be an equal, because part of the war is between male and female, positive and negative. And so the balance, we have to reach the balance. And in our head, we have had, we have two parts of our brain, and so the brain has to join together. There has to be a connection in our brain so that we can manifest the unity of our brain, because our brain rules everything. Well, we actually have three brains in our body. We have our head brain, and our heart brain, which is the most powerful, and then our solar plex brain. And so all three of those brains have to work together, and that's like the Trinity. And so that's why they're going through so many DNA upgrades, and a lot of body aches and pains for the last, been several years now. Because it's not easy to change from a carbon-based being to a crystal-based being. And so our body has had to change a whole lot. And a lot of people haven't been able to make it, and they have left. And I guess they just didn't want to go through the latter parts of these changes, And they said, well, there's nothing wrong with being on the other side either, and pretty soon there'll be such a strong connection with the 5D and the other side, that it'll be like we might even be able to, like it says that we'll walk with the masters, at the time. And so I think I feel like that's really interesting. And let's see. I don't want to overwhelm anyone here. Yeah. Okay, so...
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Is if we could just breathe, because you talk so much information, it's like if we just take a moment and just breathe.
Okay.
It's been coming in pretty fast.
Right.
I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. And so, I did make a chart too for the Dowsers meeting. And okay, so let's just look at Donald's chart for a minute. And okay, so he has, like his sun is conjunct his node, and it's also conjunct Uranus. And when you have a Sun-Uranus conjunction, it makes you like someone who's extremely different. It makes you a genius, or it makes you someone who's very erratic, or just different from the norm. And people don't always understand that energy because it is so erratic. And then he was also born with Uranus trine Jupiter, and also his Lilith. And how many of you guys know about Lilith? That we have a second moon in our system, and it's called the dark moon, and it's called Lilith. And Lilith is extremely important in a person's chart. And Lilith triggers things probably more than the actual moon does, because people say the moon is going to trigger your accidents, But I studied the aspects of Lilith, and I found that Lilith really, really, really triggers things. And then when we were first created, the planets say that the solar system was all in tune, it sang together, it was on the right frequency. And then when the planet Maldek was destroyed, which also has another name of Nibiru, then the fifth chord was broken. The solar system did not sing together anymore. And so this has been for like thousands of years, probably 200,000 years ago, or maybe even longer. And so when that chord was destroyed, and when the planet was destroyed, it made the asteroid belt. And that's where all those asteroids came from, like Eris came out of that, Pluto came out of that, and several other asteroids. Lilith didn't, because Lilith is part of our local, we've got two moons, just so we have two suns. And so in the dream spell information that has come through over the years, it's that when this chord was destroyed, that it was the time bandits, and the time bandits from Jupiter and Saturn, they stole time from us. We were on a 1320 system, and which is a dream spell calendar, and then they stole time and they put us on a 1260, which changed everything, and it just messed up everything in our solar system. And so what is coming back is when I think that when this doorway opens up here, starting on April 8th and through the month of April, and the April, Easter and Passover, I find that so interesting because they're both in April this year, and they're during that time period. And so I think that this chord might be when the door opens up, because what the time bandits did is they closed the door between Uranus and the Earth. They actually shut us down, and then that's when they created the matrix and held us in under control. And so I really feel really strongly that this doorway is going to open up in April, and I think it's going to be the beginning of a major change. And Pluto and Eris, and when the astronomers first discovered Eris, they said it was a second sun, and I didn't pay much attention to it at that time because I didn't put it all together. I thought, well, wow, it is. I mean, look at what it's done, because the second sun coming in is what's affected everything, caused all the earth changes, along with the frequency getting higher and the matrix magnetic field, changing. And so that is, well, it's just been interesting to watch it and to see how it all ties together, and it points to this time period right now as I speak. And so it's going to be interesting to see how long it takes our government to change, however it changes. I know that the people are saying no more, enough is enough. And when they start taking away, changing the budget and trying to take away all the money for the poor people, that will be devastating, if it goes through. And so there have been a lot of people, and even the Republicans are starting to say, well, we don't want that, because it'd be too drastic. We can't let all these poor people suffer, and they have to go by what the people that elect them say, And so I don't really exactly know how it's going to exactly turn out. And I guess time will tell on that. But, yeah, I think, I was kind of like running out of steam right now. And so, is there any questions that, Don?
Well, I get an impression from the snippets of news that I get here and there.
Uh-huh.
And one of the impressions I have is that we've had a frequency of supermoons. Now, I don't know if that's correct, but we have had more than one recently where the moon is very large.
Yes.
Because we're told that it is closer to us than it has been in the past.
Yes.
So is that of any significance?
Yes, it's a lot of significance, because as the frequency raises and these moons come in, these supermoons come in, well, you know how intense a full moon is. And if it's a supermoon and that close to the Earth, it just makes the energy more intense, and people feel it. And when the higher the frequency it goes, the ones who can't handle it, they kind of go crazy. And that's why there's been so much violence, because their brain is not hard drive for the high frequency. Because basically it's all about frequency. That's what it is. It's a scientific fact. It's frequency. And so people that can't handle this high frequency, they're having an extremely hard time. And that brings out fighting and losing your temper. And so for the light workers, the ones that have worked so long to hold the light, to change the world, to become living in the new earth, it's very, very important right now to try to find your center inside, and no matter what's going on around you, if everybody else is fighting and saying, oh, this is bad and that's bad and that, if you can keep in neutral, and just stay in that space, because that can help more than anything else, because it's also consciousness. And so the higher consciousness, the more people that come into the higher consciousness, then the better it is for us and for the world. And it's easier for us to move into the love vibration. And love is all there is anyway. Love is the glue that holds the solar system together, holds the universe together. Love is all there is, And so it's just the way it is. Done?
Well, I guess the reason for my question is, are we in the midst of experiencing a change in which the moon interacts with the solar system and more pointedly the Earth? In other words,
I see what you're saying.
Is it
yes.
Something is in the process of changing?
I think so, because the moon has always been considered the feminine, and so like I was talking about, the feminine energy is coming into more power now. And so, and all the planets in the solar system are changing. They're not the same as they were. Saturn has actually gone through a change, and this was a couple of years ago. And if we just realize, but we feel like we've always been under control, and so we're still under control until we change our consciousness that we're not under control anymore. And so the moon fits in with that too, because the moon has always been, like the Earth so much. And so it will be affecting the Earth even more as the water. Well, the moon rules Cancer, which is water. Water is emotion, and we're in the year of the blue storm from July to this July. And so that's why there have been tremendous storms in this past year and flooding. And this will continue, because it's all of the emotions, all the people express their emotions, and emotions is the element of water. And so we are, in a sense, are creating all this through our emotions. And that's another reason it's important to keep our emotions in balance. Yes?
So, if there are these changes that are occurring, not only in what the moon, as the moon moves through our system, but in these, you've described the changes in certain planets, and how does these changes come about? Is it from some grand intelligence? Is it our response to frequency? Is it just happenstance? I mean, what does astrology think about that?
Yeah, it's all in God's plan, and there's the normal cycles where everything changes, and so basically it's all the planets, and then the sun. Something has been affecting outside of our solar system. I think it's like when the gamma rays, we started becoming aware of the gamma rays coming in, and so that comes in and it hits the sun, and then the sun hits us, or the other planets. And then when that happens, because the gamma rays are extremely high frequency, and as we open our consciousness to higher frequencies, then more things can happen. And it's like, like after, when they jumped the timeline into in 1987, it was like these other things, they just didn't happen anymore. And I've heard from a couple of reliable sources that there was actually a nuclear war on the 3D as it was destroyed in 1987. And I don't have any proof of that or anything, but a couple of reliable sources had said that. And so, but this change won't be, because we've already gone through it. We're in the higher frequency. And so, and then there's a Russian astronomer who has done wonderful works, and he's put out this big, long report about how all the changes happened in ours, and how it came through, and it's been kind of like in order, because it's the sun first, and then Neptune, and then Uranus, and Uranus has actually had a pole shift, and then Jupiter, and Mars just recently, a couple of years ago, like this asteroid went into it, and it just, it kind of exploded. It was a beautiful picture. And when that happened, because Mars has been considered the war planet, we don't have to have war anymore. But there again, it's a consciousness thing. If we don't raise our consciousness up to the higher level, then we're still going to have the war, because it's getting rid of the old thoughts and everything. And so it's taken us a long time to go through 4D, because we have had so much garbage and control from the past and way back in our ancestry lineage, and all of that had to be cleaned out. And so that's been a really hard job, because we have to be like pure beings, and have released all of these negative things that have been caught into our body. And that's what has caused a lot of people to get sick, and it's been the releasing of it. And that's been very important. And so all of this change goes together. And then, like I said, if you're not aware of something, like we probably have always had gamma rays, but we weren't aware of it until about 1993. And then the magnetic field started shifting the north magnetic pole in 1994. And then it got, stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's been, recorded. Like they've had to change the runways in the airports because their magnetics have been off and stuff like that. Vicki, do you have a question?
Yeah, I wonder why you say, and I made a comment to you one time, but you didn't respond, so you may not have seen it. I wonder why you say we're in the 20th chapter.
Yes, we're experiencing.
Because according to the Bible anyway,
yes.
The new earth is in the 22nd. And when I wrote my book, somehow I had a thought, I don't know if it's true or not, but I had a thought that the 21st chapter could actually be the 20th, because we should be in the 21st century now, right? We're in the 21st century, we're in 2017, so I think we're in the 21st.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I never thought about that.
Right?
You're right.
So I saw the correlation between those two, and it's, we know there's information, we've had guidelines, blueprints out there, but we don't really know, so we're not on the same wavelength. I'm just saying, what if? that's kind
Right.
of been telling us.
Yeah, I think that's a really good idea.
Earth, so.
Yes, thank you for that.
Other thing, I wondered why, and I don't know if it's a question for you, but why Easter has changed. Do you think it has any significance along this?
I think
why
that
did it change from the end of March to, or did it used to be the middle of April and it got changed back? Because
I think it all depends on the moon, and their calendar.
the moon.
And
The pagans always worshipped it astrologically, and when the Romans came in and changed Christianity, they converted it to the pagan religion. So that's how come it's always been astrologically defined instead of a date like our Thanksgiving, for instance.
Okay, so it's on a certain moon. I think so. What,
yeah,
the
well,
first?
well, it's usually after the first full moon and the equinox,
Oh, okay.
or in March, and then I don't know exactly how, but I know that it goes.
Moved. It shifted something.
Oh yeah, well, it's actually on a different date every year, because it changes, and so it goes along with the calendars that they have. And we did change our calendars, like a long time ago, and I think there's 13 days difference between when they changed it, what was that, 300 or whatever, and what it is now. But it was really changed way back, and when they changed it from the 1320 to the 1260. Pat?
You haven't said much about Venus.
Oh, okay.
We know what Saturn is like and what the moon is like, but what is Venus? What is that energy like? Well, I know it's love energy, but it's...
Yeah. Okay. Well, Venus is the goddess energy. She's the goddess, And Venus is a very interesting planet because it's the only planet in our solar system that rotates backwards, And Katie, yeah. And when it goes around with its orbit, it makes this. In fact, I just got an email showing the design of the orbit of Venus, and when it goes around, it ends up making a 5-pointed star. It takes about. You didn't know that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's it's just like a geometric thing going through the heavens, and it ends up with a 5-pointed star. And so the 5-pointed star, of course, is man. Like the arms and the legs and the head, and Venus has always been considered a benevolent planet, and it's also like Venus is retrograde right now, and so Venus according to astrology, Venus rules love, and it rules relationships. And just like when Mercury's retrograde, something from the past will come back into your life, Well, in Venus, it's like a relationship from the past could come back, And I got this email, it just kind of warmed my heart, from one of the people on my list. And she says, like, she's 70, and she says that oh, thank you, because in my last news, I started writing a news flash whenever I feel like it. And I talked about the relationship thing, and so she sent me a picture of her and this man, and he had just come back into her life when Venus went retrograde. And then they found out that they had liked each other when they were little, and then here they are back again, and starting a new relationship at the age of 70. And so I thought, oh, that's so sweet, but that's a really good example of what happens when Venus is retrograde. And then someone could come back. Someone could come back, and then, you might not get it off and they live, and this hopefully it works for them, I just thought that was kind of sweet. Don?
Well, when I was a Boy Scout, I was told that if I just took my magnetic compass out, I would find my way home.
Yeah?
So has magnetic north changed?
Yes. Oh, yes, it's very definitely changed.
And why aren't we being told about that? So
Why aren't we told anything?
Understand?
Why aren't we told anything?
I thought they say that. It changes all the time.
That way?
The magnetic north changes a lot. From 23 to 20,
But
you
it's
can go
been
back in
minimal.
history and see it.
It's been
Well, I think that's a
in the Air
little
Force,
different thing
We dealt with that.
than what he's
But,
talking about.
Yeah.
it seems to me we're seeing some macro events
Yeah.
that are either in the process of starting or in full bloom or cascading into
Right, yeah.
more impact.
That's why you have to go into the scientific sites to find stuff like that, because they've kept us, dumbed down for such a long period of time that unless you research things and find out the people that are researching this stuff, sometimes you don't know what it's all about, and what's happening. But there's so many people on the internet, and there's so many people that are doing this work that if you look for it, it's all over the net. Yeah.
Well, maybe another thing, but when the powers that be told us that Pluto was a planet of a different kind,
yes, dwarf planet.
Did that disrupt the whole astrology community?
Not really, because astrologers didn't really pay much attention to it, because actually Pluto is one of the most powerful dwarf planets in the whole system. And I don't know why that is, but I've watched Pluto for a long time. And just like when Pluto went into Aries, Aries is ruled by Uranus, and Aries is ruled by Mars, and so we had a Mars-Uranus thing in effect from January of 2011 when the revolution started in Tunisia, and then went all the way through, because it takes Uranus 7 years to go through a sign, and we're not quite out of it yet. And so we've been in the Uranus of Mars and Uranus energy all that time, and that is very, very, very disruptive and violent energy and warlike energy. And so, like when something like that happens, then we have to change the energy of it. But now that we're at the point where this cross is going to be in the heavens, and Uranus is on the 19 degrees Aries at that particular time, and so that can change everything. And so maybe we can get out of the violence and the fighting and everything that's been going on with Uranus and Aries, and give it a more, it's a planet of change, And we have several dwarf planets, and they're really powerful, and they're interesting to watch too. And then they discover more and more dwarf planets. I think we have about 6 dwarf planets right now, and then 8 regular planets. And then they just recently discovered planet 9. And so there's new things coming up all the time. Katie?
Well, you were just saying, all along you've been talking about how the energy is related to all this change that we're all going through, the magnetic change. And then you repeated again how Uranus and Mars are conjunct in Aries.
Yeah.
And then you repeated again how there's this negative, and you spoke to the negative sides, but I think if we take the positive sides of those 2 planets, and I remember that.
Right, yes.
When that happened with Mars,
yes.
It was lit up.
Yes.
It was all
It was
light.
beautiful, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and if we take those 2, with Uranus being very, very powerful in its constant and
Right. Yeah, and
change, and then the Mars, with its power, and then Uranus, and Pluto in the mix somewhere,
Yeah.
then it's just can be all positive instead.
Yeah, if people change their consciousness.
Well, and does the consciousness not start with speaking about
The changes happen.
Speaking about.
Yes, people need to become aware of it too. You're right. Yeah. I have tried to put that out too, because we've lived in a duality universe for such a long period of time, and so all the planets are just like us. We have the positive and negative within us. The planets have the positive and negative within them, and so it depends on how you focus on them, and if we stay into the old meanings of the planets, and not go into the meanings of the positive side of the planets, then we'll be stuck in that. And so we really need to change our consciousness. Consciousness is kind of like, the secret. And Uranus is a planet of the New Age. It rules high technology, it rules the internet, and it went into Aries in 2011, January 2011. And look at the things. I mean, we've got our cell phones. We've got all kinds of technology. And so that will still stay in effect. And so, if we can change into the positive side of it, a lot of the new technology that's come up has been used for a negative effect, But if we can change the frequency of it and vibrate to the positive side of it, we can have all kinds of new inventions coming out that will help people. It will heal them or something, because, not everyone jumps into a 5D like the ones who are ready for it. Because and so there's going to be a lot of, and this is actually the time for light workers, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't understand what's going on. And they're going to need our help to understand, because it'd be all new to them. And they do have, after, it was like the indigos, you've heard of the different race of children that have come in, Well, I think it was the indigos, because it was the ones they got on the internet, when they started the revolution in Tunisia. And so that was the manifestation of the indigo. And then from 94 on, it's been the crystal children who have coming in. And the crystal children are love children, they're light children. And the children, it says that the children will save the world. Well, they're coming in with all their powers intact. And they're, some of them, they're still coming in. And so, and there'll be more coming in too, And so, and anyone that was born, any child that was born after 1987 would come in with a 4-dimension body instead of a 3D. And so it gives them more access to the psychic realm, to everything that's going on around them. And now the ones that come in the 5D, they'll be total love. They can change the world. They won't have to go through all the garbage that we've gone through.
Planet X.
Yeah.
What about Planet X, Nibiru?
What about what?
Planet X.
Oh, okay. Planet X, they're called Nibiru. A lot of people call it Nibiru. Some call it Nemesis. And so I had recently discovered that Nemesis, I go by what the astronomers say, that is Planet X, the second sun. And then Nibiru, a lot of people, because Nibiru was destroyed in the asteroid belt, and it went into being all kinds of asteroids. But then I started to look for my picture that I have of a spaceship. This was in 1998. And do you remember that, Pat, when when I was giving talks, I'd bring this picture, and it'd be a round ball with wings on it. Yeah. And it looked exactly like the planet Nibiru. And so I think that's what, and it was on the sun, it was Hubble telescope that had taken a picture of it on the sun. And so I think that is connected, and I think that it's actually a ship out there. And I think that they've been watching over us, because they came in 1998, and everyone says it's Nibiru that's going to destroy us and have we're going to tip over and all that kind of stuff, And so I would say that it's a artificial planet. And the ones who are from Nibiru, the survivors from all that, and they've been creators, or physical creators of us, they don't want us to be totally destroyed. And so they've been watching over us from that ship, with the one with the wings. Don?
Well, do we still, a while back we were told that there was some celestial body that was coming from the south.
Uh-huh.
In other words, from a different direction.
Uh-huh.
It was unseeable by us.
Right.
It couldn't
Yes.
Right. And it would collide with the solar system,
right.
mainly the Earth.
Uh-huh.
Do we still have to worry about that?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think they were watching Nibiru coming in, the ship Nibiru.
Okay, and another question, and I don't mean this as a critical or criticism thing, but you mentioned the word wars.
Uh-huh.
Battles,
Yeah.
and we then form in our head the image of goose-stepping
Yes.
soldiers.
Yes, right.
And I assume that what we're really talking about is resonance,
Yes,
which is harmonics.
exactly.
And we have overtones.
Yes,
Because of the change of the resonance
yes,
in the celestial bodies that interact with each other.
yes,
And
exactly
so
right.
what's impacting us are actually overtones that were not present to us maybe 3 or 4 centuries ago.
Right.
And
Yes.
Is that
Uh-huh.
one way to kind of figure it
Right,
out?
yeah. Well, it's just like this tone, disappearing when the planet destroyed, and threw the whole solar system out of balance, And so it's interesting, when I sent my article out, I got this reply from this woman, and she says, well, I've known that there's a missing tone for years, but I didn't really understand it, And she says that there's 2 artists that had actually written songs about the missing tone. She told me who they were, but I forget. And so there are people on a subconscious level that are aware of these things, you
The
know.
Moody Blues used to sing about.
That what?
The Moody Blues used to sing.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to look that up.
So is
Yeah.
the frequency of Om the same?
I think it's changing.
We
I think
became
it's-
enamored with it?
I think it's changing. You know, I don't know for sure, but I think it is.
Well,
Because-
after 4 billion years, something's got to change.
That's right.
Maybe it's instead of
That's how you spell it also.
Right, yeah. Or so maybe it's whatever tone comes in. I just thought of that, about that.
Well,
You know,
our new chakra, the magenta, maybe the new tone came with that.
well, it's a possibility.
So
You
that
know,
was in 93 or 94.
it's a possibility, you know. But I don't think it's totally, maybe it happened and we're not aware of it. Maybe we become aware of it at this particular time, in April, next month.
So I would just like to make a suggestion, actually, is as dowsers,
Yeah.
we can, take advantage of that energy today,
Yes,
by projecting ourselves ahead
right.
and bringing, ask where your energy is now, so you have a parameter to work with. And then if it's low or high, it's too high, or you can bring it to the place where you want it, and then project yourself ahead to that, especially with the astrology, exactly all the
Right.
planets. The more information we have, the better it is, and then just douse it to bring it into harmonic with your body as you go through it, so that you can do that not only for yourself but for the planet also,
That's an excellent idea.
or the United States
Yes.
specific, or maybe Washington D.C. or maybe
Right, yeah.
Camp David that's never used anymore.
I concur that dowsing is a very powerful assurance of coming to an awareness of our inner self.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's the.
Yeah, and you can find out all kinds of answers by dowsing.
So is there any change in the worldwide public understanding or acceptance of astrology? In other words, is there any organization that is attempting to bring more information out so that it no longer is treated like it's some superstition? Or
Well, that
some
man,
kind of
that,
rogue
yeah.
religion?
That man that wrote the article, that was written several years ago, and he's been working on it behind the scene, and he's got, other astronomers have come out with the same thing. It's not the astrologers that are proving it, it's astronomers. And then Bruce Lipton, is doing the same thing. And so there are people coming out, probably to prove it, And then by writing my article, like if I really sit down, like I've gotten earthquakes on the exact day they're going to happen, where they're going to happen. And so I think, well, this is kind of proving astrology too in a different way. But I haven't had time to do that type of work anymore because I've had other things I've had to write about to help people get through this change that we're going through. But just like all the rain that we've had here, the asteroid Sedna, which is another dwarf planet, has been right over us, the Pacific Northwest, up, Washington and then part of Oregon. And so, and it's been squared by Uranus. No, not Uranus, the other planet. I'm drawing a blank right here. But anyways, it's been activated. And so that's why there's been so much rain here, because I looked, what in the world's causing all the rain? Because there's no planet right here, And then I looked and thought, oh, I've got Sedna out there, That's sitting right over the coast. And so then I looked up the meaning of Sedna, and it rules water and stuff. And so, right. Sometimes things can be in plain sight and you don't see them.
See them through the raindrops.
Are these things we can see if we know what to look for?
Yes.
Or can you visualize them? I mean, the second sun, is that something?
Oh, you can look for a picture of that. I mean, it's beautiful. The picture of
How do you see it?
Planet 9. Oh, of Eris? I should have brought that with. It's a red planet. It's beautiful. I got that off, I forget, the internet somewhere.
Do you wear slit glasses or smoky glasses and get out there just
Oh,
before the
you
sun
can
sets,
actually
or
see
what?
it. You can actually see it now with binoculars.
Can you?
Yes, I read that just the
South
other day.
or north or where?
Let me think. I should have paid more attention to that.
And where in the sky?
Well, it'd be in
Sunrise
Aries.
or sunset?
So you could look on a sky map where Aries is, and that's where it would be because it's right next to Uranus, and Uranus is in Aries.
Like with a telescope or something, maybe?
Yeah, or they said you could see it with just binoculars. I haven't tested them. Of course, our heavens are not exactly where you can see
I
things
see trees.
at night. That was,
I see trees where
Right.
I look out the window. That's
yeah, right,
That's
yeah.
marvelous.
And you can't see through the rain very well. Yeah, but yes, that has come up. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'll kind of wind down here.